Curiosity is the most natural instinct of an intelligent mind. It is the spark that turns observation into discovery, the invisible thread that connects ignorance to understanding. The difference between knowledge and curiosity is profound. Knowledge is static. It sits like a collection of objects on a shelf, admired but unmoving. Curiosity, on the other hand, is dynamic. It pulls, tugs, and refuses to stay still. It demands participation, not memorization. The curious mind doesn't stop at knowing that something works. It demands to know why it works, how it works, and what happens if it doesn't. From childhood, curiosity is the first engine of learning. A child does not read manuals or attend lectures. They poke, break, and rebuild. Every question is an experiment in disguise. Somewhere along the way, the world teaches people to value answers more than questions, grades more than wonder, and certainty more than exploration. But that shift dulls the mind. Curiosity, unlike knowledge, is not limited by authority or convention. It resists finality. It keeps asking even when everyone else has stopped. That persistence is what leads to breakthroughs. Because curiosity doesn't just look for what is known, it looks for what is missing. To cultivate curiosity, one must first let go of the fear of not knowing. Most people stop asking questions when they feel the discomfort of uncertainty. But uncertainty is the starting point of every real insight. The curious thinker does not rush to conclusions. They live in the question, rolling it around like a stone in their hand, feeling its weight from every side. They notice details others ignore, not because they are smarter, but because they are more awake. Knowledge gives you conclusions. Curiosity gives you possibilities. And possibilities are where innovation is born. When curiosity becomes a habit, it transforms the very structure of thought. Instead of moving in straight lines from problem to solution, the mind starts to move in spirals, each question leading to another layer of depth. You might begin by asking why the apple falls, and end up uncovering the invisible laws of gravity that bind the stars. That's the nature of curiosity. It stretches beyond the immediate and links the smallest observation to the grandest truth. It doesn't stop at the phenomenon, it seeks the principle beneath it. Curiosity also changes the emotional tone of thinking. It turns frustration into fascination. When an idea doesn't make sense, the uncurious mind feels defeated, but the curious mind feels challenged. Confusion becomes an invitation to explore. The energy that might have gone into self-doubt or boredom is redirected into investigation. That shift in attitude is the foundation of creative endurance. Curiosity makes effort feel like play, and play is the most efficient form of learning nature has ever invented. Another hidden strength of curiosity is that it bypasses ego. The curious person is not invested in being right. They are invested in understanding. They are not humiliated by not knowing, they are thrilled by the opportunity to find out. This humility opens doors that pride keeps closed. It allows genuine collaboration, because curiosity values insight from any source, regardless of status or background. It makes the mind porous, ready to absorb new ideas and discard old ones without resentment. In this sense, curiosity is the ultimate antidote to intellectual arrogance. It replaces the false pride of certainty with the honest joy of discovery. The mechanics of curiosity resemble the mechanics of scientific inquiry. It begins with observation, seeing something odd or unexpected. Then comes the hypothesis, a guess, a hunch, a mental model. Then the experiment, the test of that model against reality. Finally, the result, either confirmation or surprise. The crucial part is that curiosity treats both outcomes as valuable. Even when the experiment fails, it reveals something that wasn't known before. The curious thinker understands that a wrong answer still moves you forward, while an unquestioned answer keeps you still. Curiosity also strengthens memory in a unique way. When you're curious about a topic, the brain releases dopamine, making the process of learning feel rewarding. You don't have to force yourself to remember. Your mind does it automatically because it recognizes the emotional significance of discovery. This is why curiosity-driven learning lasts longer than rote memorization. It embeds knowledge not as isolated facts, but as part of a living network of understanding. Each new idea connects to others, forming a mental map that keeps expanding outward. A curious mindset is not limited to science or study, it applies to relationships, art, leadership, and everyday life. When you approach people with curiosity instead of judgment, you see their complexity instead of their labels. When you face problems with curiosity instead of anxiety, you uncover opportunities hidden within difficulties. Curiosity transforms resistance into exploration. It creates movement where there was stagnation. In a sense, it is both the method and the meaning of progress. The curious mind never says, "I've learned enough." It treats each conclusion as a doorway, not a wall. There is always another question waiting, another layer to peel back, another connection to trace. This endless questioning is not a burden, it is a form of freedom. To be curious is to live in a constant state of awakening, where every discovery hints at something more. It keeps the mind alive and flexible, able to adapt to new challenges without losing its sense of wonder. Even in moments of failure, curiosity softens the blow. When an experiment fails, the uncurious person sees waste, the curious person sees data. Failure becomes a teacher, not an enemy. Each setback becomes a clue, and each clue brings you closer to understanding. That resilience comes directly from curiosity. It shifts your relationship with the unknown from fear to fascination. Ultimately, curiosity over knowledge is a philosophy of growth. Knowledge can be inherited, but curiosity must be cultivated. It requires attention, humility, and courage. The courage to look foolish, to ask questions that seem too simple, to pursue answers that others overlook. It thrives on the edge between what is known and what is not yet understood. The moment curiosity fades, progress stops. The moment curiosity ignites, the entire world becomes a laboratory of ideas waiting to be explored. Complexity often disguises ignorance. When something cannot be explained simply, it usually means it hasn't been fully understood. The real strength of the mind lies in the ability to take something tangled, full of jargon and technical detail, and strip it down to its essence. The process of simplification is not about dumbing things down, it's about seeing clearly. When you force yourself to explain an idea in plain, everyday language, the fog lifts, and the true structure of the thought emerges. What remains after that stripping away is the core principle, the truth that doesn't depend on decoration. This mindset demands honesty. You can't hide behind big words or equations when you aim for simplicity. You must face the gaps in your understanding, the places where you only think you know. It's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is what leads to real clarity. Every idea, no matter how complicated, has a simple root. Finding it requires patience and humility. You must keep asking, what does this really mean? What's the point behind the formula, the rule, the law? When you reach the point where a child could grasp it, that's when you've captured its true meaning. Simplifying isn't about reducing the beauty of complexity, it's about revealing it. The most elegant explanations are often the shortest because they connect directly with intuition. When the concept feels obvious, it means it has been understood completely, not just memorized. Simplicity is the test of depth, and the clearer your understanding becomes, the more naturally simplicity appears. Thinking is not enough, you have to touch reality. The mind loves theories, but the world doesn't always play along. Experimentation is the bridge between imagination and truth. It's how an idea earns its place in reality. You start with a question, form a guess, and then test it. The test is what keeps the mind honest. No amount of confidence can make a wrong idea right once it faces the evidence. That's why experimentation is not just a scientific habit, it's a way of living intelligently. It teaches humility because it reminds you that nature, not your opinion, has the final say. The beauty of this process is that failure becomes information. Every mistake, every unexpected result, is a message from the world telling you something you didn't know. Instead of being frustrated, the experimental thinker gets curious. Why didn't this work? What variable changed? What assumption failed? Each error is a direction sign pointing toward a deeper layer of truth. The more you experiment, the less afraid you are of being wrong, because you begin to see that being wrong is simply part of being right, eventually. This mindset transforms learning into a hands-on adventure. Rather than waiting for the perfect theory, you try, observe, adjust, and try again. You replace the fear of failure with the excitement of discovery. Knowledge becomes alive when it's tested, not just talked about. Experimentation gives ideas texture. It turns abstract thoughts into experiences you can feel, measure, and understand directly. Serious thinking doesn't have to look serious. The mind works best when it's allowed to play. When you approach problems as puzzles instead of burdens, curiosity takes the lead and fear steps aside. Playfulness opens the door to imagination it lets. Ideas collide, bend, and reshape themselves without judgment. The playful thinker asks questions not because they must, but because they can't resist the thrill of seeing what happens next. In this state, creativity flows naturally, and breakthroughs often appear when least expected, disguised as moments of fun or even foolishness. Playfulness removes the pressure of being right. When you're playing, there's no failure, only moves that lead to more moves. The process becomes its own reward. You test things just to see what they do. You combine thoughts that don't belong together and watch new patterns emerge. This freedom trains the brain to be flexible, to leap across disciplines, to notice connections others overlook because they are too rigid or too cautious. The energy of play keeps the mind alive, sharp, and inventive. Many great discoveries begin with curiosity disguised as play. The tinkering, the joking, the what-if moments, they are not distractions from real work but the essence of it. Play nurtures attention without force. It builds focus without tension. When learning feels like play, effort turns into exploration. The boundaries of possibility widen, and the mind discovers not just how things work, but the joy in discovering that they do. The act of teaching is one of the most powerful tests of understanding. When you explain something to another person, or even to yourself, every weak spot in your knowledge becomes exposed. You can't hide behind vague familiarity or clever phrasing. You have to make the idea stand on its own. Teaching forces you to arrange thoughts clearly, to strip away unnecessary detail, and to connect every piece with logic. In doing so, you discover what you actually know and what you've only been pretending to understand. This process transforms learning from passive absorption into active construction. When you try to explain a concept in simple terms, you begin to see it differently. You notice the assumptions hiding beneath it, the steps you've skipped, the reason something is true rather than just the fact that it is. This reflection deepens understanding in a way that mere reading or memorization never can. The words you use to teach shape how you think, and the effort of finding clarity builds precision in your reasoning. The more you teach, the more your mind becomes organized, adaptable, and confident in its grasp of complex ideas. Even when no one is listening, the act of explaining out loud to an imaginary audience, to a notebook, or to the air sharpens comprehension. It's like running a mental experiment. Can this idea survive the test of explanation? If it can, it becomes part of your true understanding. If not, it points directly to where you must learn more. The biggest obstacle to real understanding is not ignorance, it's pride. The mind that clings to being right stops learning the moment it feels challenged. Detaching ego from intellect means separating your worth from your ideas. It's the recognition that being wrong does not make you foolish. It makes you human. When you stop defending your opinions as part of your identity, you open the door to truth. You begin to see that knowledge is not a possession but a process, something that grows through correction, doubt, and humility. Admitting ignorance is not weakness, it is the foundation of wisdom. The moment you can say, "I don't know," with honesty, your mind becomes free to explore without fear. The ego fears uncertainty because it wants control. Intellect, on the other hand, thrives on it. It understands that not knowing is the starting point of discovery. Detaching from ego allows curiosity to take the lead because the goal shifts from being right to being real. You start to listen more, to question assumptions, to seek evidence rather than approval. This mindset nurtures resilience. When failure comes, it doesn't wound your pride, it teaches your intellect. When someone corrects you, it doesn't sting, it sharpens your clarity. The more you practice humility in thought, the stronger and clearer your reasoning becomes. You no longer chase validation through cleverness, you chase understanding through honesty. The mind that has nothing to prove can finally see things as they are, not as it wishes them to be. A powerful and successful mindset is not built through ambition alone, but through the same principles that govern nature, observation, curiosity, and constant revision. The mind, like the universe, behaves according to patterns. When you learn to see those patterns, to test them, to play with them, and to refine them, you begin to operate with the same elegance that nature itself displays. The pursuit of understanding becomes a mirror of the physical world. Every question, every mistake, every burst of insight is an experiment that reveals a deeper law of thought. The beauty of this approach lies in its simplicity. The rules that describe the movement of planets can also describe the movement of ideas. When thinking becomes an experiment, learning stops being a race and becomes a rhythm. Curiosity drives the momentum, simplicity brings clarity, experimentation adds texture, playfulness fuels energy, teaching locks in understanding, and humility clears the path ahead. These forces combine like vectors, reinforcing one another until the direction of growth becomes unstoppable. It's not about mastering physics, it's about applying the same fearless logic to the mechanics of life. The same way a particle moves when pushed by a force, the mind moves when pushed by wonder. The greatest discoveries do not come from certainty, but from the willingness to explore the unknown with childlike fascination. The mind trained in this way doesn't just solve problems, it learns to dance with them, to find the underlying rhythm of truth hidden beneath complexity.